Yes, please.
Okay, with Zach Marks, A Valley Reborn is the short film play, the documentary film festival. It's 11 minutes long, and it's a really cool documentary or interesting documentary. It kind of freaked me out a little bit, but it's about the restoration of the portion of the San Miguel River, a huge river in the United States that needs to be restored because it's kind of messed up. And I guess that's the best way to put it, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's definitely something we need to take care of, but I don't think it's something that we need to be afraid of. There's a lot of good people that are working at the EPA and the Forest Service that are recognizing that, the U.S., especially the western part of the U.S., has a really rich mining history. And the practices that they had in these mining towns were kind of barbaric and unknown to the people that were doing it. And a lot of these towns that they started these mining practices in, have turned into resort towns or ski towns or vacation places for a lot of the United States. They also are some national parks, some state parks have a lot of this pollution around the area. So it's not something to be scared about. It's more something to recognize and to learn how to improve in our daily lives to improve everyone in the U.S.
You talked about the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the EPA. What is the Environmental Protection Agency?
Yeah, it's the EPA working with Congress and all
Like, what is
throughout
that
the.
exactly? What are they? They're is that's it's their government run like portion of the like their federal. What are they? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so it's a government agency that has locations all across the U.S. That monitor the environment, whether it be rivers or the health of forests. I know other places in Colorado are having problems with these beetles that are eating the pine trees, and there's a lot of people from the EPA that are trying to figure out how do we save the pine trees and how do we mitigate this invasive species problem. So they're located all over the United States. They do really wonderful work. They have had some controversy in the past, but it's very difficult to figure out what the best thing to do is in these emergency situations.
So what's the you just brought it up? What's the controversy in the past?
Just you can look at instances like in Ohio when they had that I want to say it was the train that
Oh,
derailed.
yeah.
And so people have certain views on what they should do, how quickly they should react to the chemical spills and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's a lot of reactionary work, but they're doing stuff that is in the best interest for everyone around.
And it's like there's like it's like also like there's nothing to really look like everything's reactionary, like you said, but there's no compare. Sometimes there's nothing to compare it with, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Why
exactly, exactly. Yeah,
mistakes will
these
happen no matter what, right?
yeah. And part of my filmmaking is, growing up, I have watched a lot of documentaries that, like you said in the beginning, make you really scared for what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, and I discovered this project, and I thought it was something that I should share with people because this is one of the good things that people are doing for the environment. It's not all bad, and we have to recognize that. We have to highlight that so that we can continue to move forward and not have this, existential dread that everything is ruined and I can't do anything about it. Whereas you clearly can do something about it, like we showed in this film.
So how did you become part of this project? What was the process?
So this process it starts back in 2020 when I first visited Telluride. I went to school in Colorado and I had some friends that grew up in the area. So um, that summer I drove out and kind of discovered the area and immediately fell in love with it and just kept finding excuses to find my way back there. Um, And then I remember sitting on my friend's couch. He is a fly fishing guide in Telluride, and he was telling me about the river restoration that they were doing. This was already a year into the project, which started as a single year project, ended up being a 2 year project. So he's telling me about it, and he starts complaining about the trucks driving through the town and ruining some of the local fishing in there. And I'm like, this sounds really, really interesting. I always had a passion for environmental studies going back to high school, but I decided to go to film school um, to pursue that passion. And I found a really interesting way to combine two of my main interests. And I was lucky enough that my friends' parents let me stay at their house, and my crew and I were camping in the woods while we were filming this project. working in town. And it was a lot of just showing up to certain events and asking people if they would be interested in talking about this project. Telluride's a very small town. I
Mhm.
think there's about like 2,000 people that live there year round right now. So we kind of just showed up and went to an EPA um, open forum for the town, and we were
Yeah.
the only people that showed up. And the EPA were opened us with like open arms. Same with the Forest Service, who were the main role players in this. We found some local people who initially worked to buy this land, because the land that this documentary is about has a much deeper history than what we really talk about. Because in the early 2000s, there was a man called named Neil Blue, this billionaire, who purchased the land and was going to develop it. And this is like pristine riverbed. It's a breeding ground for the elk that live in the valley, and it really hurt the people that live there. They felt threatened that their way of life, living side by side with this pristine nature, was going to be taken away.
Yeah.
So they ended up raising about $2 million in like 30 days to buy back the valley floor, um, and preserve it for future generations. And so now we're coming up on almost 30 years of since they did that. I think they started this in '96. And so we were lucky enough to get to the people that started that organization to talk about it. Hillary and David are I'm really happy that they were able to speak on our documentary.
So, okay, so this is your first film, correct?
Yeah, this is my first film.
Okay, so you're doing this documentary. So were you just like were you just like going out shooting stuff and then kind of figuring out and editing afterwards? Like, or did you have a game plan?
Yeah,
Like, what was
complete.
your,
We had an idea.
yeah,
Like I said, my friend was a fly fishing guide, so
yeah,
we kind of had our original idea based around fly fishing, talking to a lot of these people that spend a lot of time in this area and a lot of time on the river, and seeing what they thought about this whole restoration. And then we kind of found this really beautiful arc with the story of just cleaning up this land and preserving it, and making it a free roaming, um, free flowing river, removing some of the dams. It was just it felt like a better story. And yeah, like we kind of just showed up and wanted to see what kind of story we could tell.
it's almost like you were like you set out to like talk to the locals and then you ended up talking to the experts, I guess, like within,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like through
exactly. I mean,
osmosis,
we
I
we
guess, right?
we definitely still had. I mean, I think Telluride's a special place because a lot of the locals are the experts.
Yeah.
Um, so
I guess
it's
someone,
a
I guess more
combination of
precise,
all
someone
that,
with a
but
more precise
totally.
point of view, I guess. You talk to.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we were talking about making this film, and my friends were like, "Oh, we need a narrator. You should be the narrator. We really want you, the director, to be up in front of the camera." And I was like, I grew up in Los Angeles. This landscape is like amazing to me, but I don't have any like personal connection to it other than I love it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more people that can talk about this, that are knowledgeable about, that can do as much research as I can, but have that different connection. And I think that's what really made our film special.
And then so you just set out to do some interviews and you got some like some great good insights from the interviews. And then I guess three women in particular, I guess, right? Like you kept going back and forth to kind of giving you
Yeah, yeah, and I think that it's also really cool that we were able to have women be the main like focus point of our documentary. Aside from the nature, just like them telling the narrative, because originally we were doing it with fly fishing, and fly fishing is such a male driven
yeah.
activity, all the way from the participants to the guides. So to kind of get a different perspective from all the interviews we did with that, and to have um you know the head of the EPA project side of it was a woman, Joni Sandoval. The head of the whole Norwood Forest Service division was Megan Eno, and she's a woman. And it was just so cool to have these different perspectives from what we were originally getting. I think it told a better story.
And you got a really cool sequence, like I think 4 or 5 minutes into the film with the map. Kind of mapped out Colorado where the river goes. How did you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, well, one of my friends from college, Rob Folk, he's our editor and assistant director. He's a wizard. He's just really, really good at Blender, and he's able to, we would have these really long conversations. He would just, we really clicked. Sorry, my cat is like on the back of my chair.
Yeah, I know, I like it. Yeah,
um, and he's really talented at what he does. I'm really grateful that he was able to help turn my vision into a reality.
yeah, it was a cool sequence. Yeah. So he just
Thank
kind of
you.
did it for you on Blender?
Yeah, like I said, he's a wizard. He's really good.
And then you got all kinds of like the footage, like the B-roll footage of like the landscapes. Where did you got you got some nice helicopter shots or drone shots, I guess?
Yeah, that was all the drone shots were my friend Max Pugh, who was one of the cinematographers on this, and most of the handheld B-roll was myself.
Yeah, it's some really good stuff, like really good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Max Pugh. That said, that name sounds familiar to me. I don't know.
Yeah, he's from Boston. He went to school in Colorado, Boulder. I don't know if you're from that area.
So okay, so tell me about like so basically you got the footage, you got the interviews, and then you kind of like piece it together in editing, I guess. Did you always think 11 minutes is the length? Like what was your idea before you started making the film?
We were shooting for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I had a friend that told me, based off experience, if your film is 10 minutes or under for short film festivals, you're more likely to get in.
yeah.
So I had that in mind. I don't think we needed to be longer, and I don't think we needed to be shorter. I feel really comfortable about the length of the film. And since I live in Los Angeles and my friend Rob, who's the editor, lives in Colorado, it was mostly like virtual, like Zoom conferences. And he, the reason he's the assistant director is because he was able to just understand so much of what I was trying to turn this into. It felt like he was like an extension of me, just in Colorado with the editing software. So it was
Gotcha.
just a lot of conversations and just him understanding what I wanted.
Do you remember how many hours of footage you shot?
Each interview was probably at least an hour, and we ended up
Oh wow.
like 7 interviews. Yeah, and then it's funny, we this film only should have taken a year to make. It took 2 years to make, but I mean, we were such amateurs at this.
Yeah.
We finished the documentary pretty much in the summer of 2022. And my cinematographer Max took the hard drive that had all of the B-roll on it, and luckily I had the interviews on my end on my
Yeah.
computer. And he went to the desert in Utah, and it corrupted the hard drive, and we lost all of our B-roll.
Oh no.
So yeah, so we had a lot of hours of footage because we had to refilm all of the B-roll and everything else that following spring.
You had to go back.
We had to go back.
Oh man. Was there any blessing in the skies with that or no?
Totally. I mean, we had another year of experience using our cameras and just getting better at what we do. So it totally was better the second time around.
So in a way, this was kind of like a good film school lesson for you.
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, everything that we did was like we were so naive. I like now thinking back on it, just showing up to a remote town and trying to make a documentary like that seems a bit daunting, especially trying to negotiate with all of these government agencies. I'm lucky that I was able to do it easily and that everyone was very nice to me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was a very, very, very powerful learning experience that I'm really grateful that I got to have.
Well, sometimes ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah, totally, totally.
So we sent the audience to you with the audience feedback video. What did you think about what they had to say about your film?
Yeah, it was really cool to see what other people think, because I've only been able to show it to family and friends. I hope give me honest reviews, but yeah, it was really cool to see the audience review.
Yeah, well, it's an important subject, and yeah, there's something about the river. There's something like like I don't even know, it's like therapeutic, or there's something that just like peace, or just there's a like they said, it's like there's so much history, right, with these rivers. Like they've been around for hundreds of thousands of years before even humans were born, probably, right? So
Definitely.
it's just like, yeah, there's so many like you can almost like, if you, I don't know, it's like I'm being corny, but you can almost like hear the history when you go when you're near a river.
Yeah, I totally believe that. And going to these like Telluride's a special town that has a lot of history. Going back, it used to be a Native American summer camp where they would go because all of the animals would flock there into the valley. Um, just spending time in these remote places is what I want to do, and that's why I started making this film. And showing people all of this nature is really exciting to me.
So what's next for you? What are you up to now?
Next, I'm trying to do something local in Los Angeles because that's where I live right now. And I'm looking at kelp forests and kelp forest restoration. So a similar note to the last film, but moving to underwater and seeing how we can help the kelp forests because they cover about 80% of the world's coastlines.
Mhm.
And I feel like not a lot of people know about them. I sure didn't know much about them until I started researching it. And I think, the film My Octopus Teacher,
Yeah,
I think that's opened up a lot of doors for people to have more interest in this topic.
yeah, that makes sense. Well, why don't we talk again when that film is done? And I wish you the best of luck in your filmmaking career. You're on your way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking to me.